GM friends, hello and welcome to another episode of the Tokenomics podcast. We've got a super exciting podcast today all about Armored Kingdom, the new Web3 transmedia property from Mila Kunis' production company, Orchard Farm Productions. So this is kind of the most high-powered tokenomics, the first time we're really reaching way outside our comfort zone of fellow game development nerds, although I do know that we've got fellow nerds and gamers on the other end. I am, of course, Ethan Levy, your host today. Why doesn't everyone take a turn introducing themselves and talking a little bit about their background in media creation?
Right. I'm Lisa Sterbakov. I am Mila Kunis' production partner on Orchard Farm Productions. We have been making traditional film and television together for 7-8 years. Last year, just about a year ago, we launched our first Web3 project with Stoner Cats, followed up kind of quickly after that with the Gimmicks, and now kind of coming into number 3 with Armored Kingdom. But we are, the second we did Stoner Cats and we realized like what kind of untapped potential there was here, we just became total excited degens, and we're here. We're in it for it.
Right. You're like, upcoming exclusive Netflix movie. That's old news for us now.
Well, we
now
do a movie coming out this year on Netflix called Luckiest Girl Alive. You guys check it out. We're incredibly, incredibly proud of it. And it was one of those experiences, I will say, on Netflix's behalf, where we got to make the movie we wanted to make, and they really supported artists in a beautiful way, which isn't always the case, and they were fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, between movie, TV, animation, now game development, comics, Web3, Orchard Farm's kind of doing it all. Hugh and Brian, would you each introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Hugh Sterbakov. I've had a very long career in writing. I started way back as a game journalist. I wrote for GamePro magazine. I interviewed some people who probably listen to the podcast.
If I knew that, I have some issues of GamePro around in the house. I found them while I was moving recently.
Really? I'm Boba Fett and Django Fett, yeah. So I'm sure if you've got some GamePros, I almost certainly wrote in them. I wrote in them for over 5 years. Wow. It was a great little career as I was starting my screenwriting career. I've written film, television, comic books, a couple Emmy nominations for Robot Chicken. I used to buy the toys for Robot Chicken.
That's a dream job right there.
Yeah, it was the best job in Hollywood. Truly the best job in Hollywood.
Can I pause a little bit on Robot Chicken? Because I loved Robot Chicken. I was in senior in college when it came out, and we were all such fans that when it came out, when I had a party after the second episode, I showed it to everyone because it was still so hilarious to me. It was like Robot Chicken and Chappelle's Show both came out kind of at the same time and were those things we just had to share with our friends because they were so funny and so for us. I'm just really excited you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having
me. Brian, how about you?
I'm also a writer. I've been working in television and animation and features. I'm cued in mostly in the family and holiday space. I've also known Hugh for 30 years. We went to college together, and I'm a long-term gamer who lost years to EverQuest and more years to World of Warcraft, and then more years to World of Warcraft again later when I went back on. And so I've in Dungeons and Dragons since I was second grade, so I'm deep into the fantasy gameplay genre.
Yeah.
I think that all of us, including Mila, actually are recovering World of Warcraft addicts. Problematic. Call us psychologists. Don't just uninstall World of Warcraft addicts.
Yeah, I actually, Lisa, can I ask you? You and Mila played WoW together, right?
We all of us played WoW together.
We were all in a guild.
Yeah, we had our own. It was called Fatties. That was our guild, and we all, we were always in the Fatties chat all the time. We did 5-man raids, a lot of 5-man, and
with Mila and a couple other celebrities.
Guys, this is my first ever stars. They're just like you moment. Stars,
Oh, no.
they're just like you. They're in WoW raids and chatting with their friends on Discord all the time.
And
You haven't
losing
played
gold.
WoW until you're 20 minutes into the Black Morass, and Mila just randomly announces that she has to go to the bathroom. And he leaves 4 other players, and she's our main DPS, just wanders away, and we're literally sitting there like, did she really just leave? Did she just leave? Watching our DPS plummet. And she's screaming from the bathroom, I'll be right back. That's when you know you played Warcraft.
And then we also, like, we did it as full LAN parties, so everyone would come to our apartment because we had the best internet. Even though we didn't have the best house, we just had the best internet.
Right.
And we would just, like, the number, like, coax running through the house as we all just played together. It was so much fun. And then we had children and, like,
Yeah,
the fun
I'm familiar.
Yeah.
There was one night where this is not a full raid or anything. We just had a simple party going, and it was a couple of celebrities. Mila was among them, but none of them are using their. Obviously, you're not playing with your real name. But someone joined our party, and I don't remember the name, but I'm going to say the character's name was Chuck Norris. It was someone was named a celebrity name when they go Justin Timberlake, something like that. I don't remember what it was.
Right.
I'm just like, oh my God, are you actually Chuck Norris? The person's like, no. And I'm like, that's so weird, though, because you could totally be at a party with a bunch of celebrities you would never know. And everyone's cracking up as this, some random, teen from Illinois is in this group with A-list celebrities. Doesn't know.
That's amazing. Do you have there are a number of Blizzard employees who listen, ex-EverQuest, ex-Warcraft people. Any messages for the game development community? Any requests or anything other than obviously all your life energy back?
Yeah, it's like, thank you, and also fuck off. Like that's what I mean. Thank you for the years and hours and and still, but also, that was hard.
Yeah, there were days where I would clock a 16-hour day.
Oh my goodness! Being I should switch careers to screenwriting. I haven't played 16 hours of video games in a month.
Yeah.
Oh man, become a screenwriter. You have a lot of free time.
That is, I will say that is one of the things about screenwriting is like when you're working, especially if you're staffed, you're working like crazy hours, and when you're not, you're just not. So these guys get they get free time that I don't get, frankly, but they do get a lot more free time.
Hey, my first 3 Christmas movies were all made while I was gaming, while I was playing Warcraft. So.
That's great. That explains the goblin subplot in Spookly the Christmas Pumpkin that I saw with my kids. All right. But Spookly, there's this. My kids delve into the depths of horrible family entertainment on Netflix, and they love Spookly.
This looks terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay, great.
All right, so. Let's start here. What is Orchard Farm, and how did the company initially get involved in Web3?
So Orchard Farm is the company. It is me and Mila and our other partner, Cammie Curtis, who is not on the Web3 side. We started the company in, 2015. That's right. Yep. No, 2014. Where Mila was, she was pregnant. She tells the story. She was pregnant with her first kid. And was like, I'm going to be a lady of leisure. And after like a month and a half, she was like, I can't do it. I need to be productive. I have to do stuff.
Yeah.
And she, as she says, she can't write. She can't, she's not really looking to direct at this point. But she knows what a good producer is because she's worked with good and she's worked with bad. And she's read hours and hours and done hundreds and thousands of hours of television and film. And she thought, you know what, I really can produce. And she called Cammie, who was her longtime manager. She called me, and I have a different career, and she was like, quit that great career and come in and do this thing with us. And I was like, that's a terrible idea, but let's give it a shot. And
this is a horrible idea.
This is a horrible idea. You're going to see a theme here where we have terrible ideas, and we're like, let's fucking do it anyway.
I want to become a successful producer. Let me recruit my WoW guildmate.
Right. That is how the majority of video game companies are founded, actually.
Yeah, that's right. In our first year, we sold 6 shows, which was insane. That's a huge amount of shows in one season, with just kind of by like the seat of our pants and just trying to figure it all out.
Right.
Learned a lot, moved our way through, and then we've been we've had kind of similar success throughout, but we've also run up against all of the frustrations that you run up against in film and television. The idea that it is not the best script that wins. It is not the best idea that wins. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of other things. A lot of it's timing. You know, there's just we can develop things that we love with partners that we love, and we believe in their story and we believe in their idea. But the power isn't in the hands of the artist. The power is in the hands of a studio or a network. And so when we had Stoner Cats, we had it traditionally. It came to us as just like a regular TV show. We added Jane Fonda to it, which was like, it's so amazing.
Brilliant.
It's like, I'm going to do
add Jane Fonda to anything.
I
would add Jane Fonda to any game I'm making.
She's so cool. It's amazing. I feel like I have to like pinch myself, sort of like, oh my God, Jane Fonda's doing her thing. We took it out with Jane Fonda traditionally, and the combination of it's starring an 80-something-year-old woman who's not necessarily a demographic that people are looking for, and there's anthropomorphized animals, and there's weed content. So the weed content
this sounds like every Adult Swim show I watch.
It does, but can I tell you something? Adult Swim says no hard pass on weed content. And we were like, sorry, you're Adult Swim. What do you mean hard pass on weed content? Okay. So that became like the industry.
They're like, talking French fries, yes, but if the talking French fries imbibe marijuana,
explicitly imbibe marijuana. Yeah. So we obviously had an explicit, marijuana content in our game, although the marijuana is really it's just like it's the magical pill. It's not really, exactly. Right. It's not really about that. But what we loved about the show is that as much as it is silly and funny, it's also has deep heart. Mrs. Stoner has Alzheimer's, and when these cats become aware, they do everything they can to save her and to be her family, and that's really like an amazing process. But we couldn't get any traction. And the traction we did get was so low pay that it wasn't worth it for anybody on the team.
Right.
And Mila had the idea. Ash, Sarah, and Chris, the creators, they're incredible creators and also incredible animators of their own right. And they could make the show. And so we were like, okay, we can make the show. Now what do we do with it? How do we get it to an audience? How do we do something a little bit noisy? And it was Mila's idea that we do it as attached to an NFT, and we put together an incredible team with Morgan Beller from NFX and Maria Bajwa, who works with Ashton at Sound, and then brought in Big Head Club to kind of do our contract in our community, and learned a ton along the way. Made a lot of good assumptions, made some bad assumptions, but we managed to do a thing that nobody had really done yet, and that was super exciting. And then it became sort of the starting gun as we ran into this space and a huge amounts of learning.
Got it. Y'all won't know this about me, but my core background skill set is as a monetization designer. So a big part of what attracts me about Web3 for gaming is new business models and the ability of new business models to free and empower creators. And so, just as a comparison, if you had gotten an order for a pilot for Stoner Cats, right? That's kind of the equivalent of building a vertical slice in game development. If you'd gotten an order for a pilot for that show, roughly how much money do you think you would have gotten from one of the key gatekeepers in order to make that?
I can tell you the offer we had the actual offer we had on the table, which was to make it as shorts. So extrapolate that out. 5-minute shorts. They were going to pay the team $5,000.
$5,000 total.
There are 6 people on this team.
Yeah, so
$5,000.
Got it.
And we were like, no. Now, if you look at a typical fee on a 30-minute, here's the thing with animation is not covered under most circumstances under the Writers Guild. So the writers actually don't get paid a huge amount. And producers also, there's just not as much money, particularly in adult animation, as unless you're on Fox, they absolutely are SAG or are Writers Guild signatories. But the other ones, they're not, and the pay is not huge. If they actually, just to write the script, producers don't get paid when you write a script at all, so we would have gotten nothing.
Yeah.
The writers would have gotten an amount, not a huge amount, several thousand, a few, maybe $20,000, $30,000 to write that script. And then if they picked up and actually started making, they don't usually make just animated pilots, they make animated series.
If you made a season,
Yeah, then, you get a fee, but it's not as much money as people might think.
What do you think the roughly the budget for a season of Stoner Cats would have been through the traditional system?
I mean, it would have been 20-30 million.
20-30 million, got it. But with that, you would have lost control of
entirely,
completely.
And that money, that's budget that goes to production. I mean, which by the way, but we even in selling and writing the pilot, if they commission a pilot, then the studio then really owns that for a huge period of time, and if not kind of in perpetuity. And they additionally take all of any sort of like ancillary, if there is ancillary content that's made, the studio owns that. If there's merchandise that's made, the studio owns that. All of the ownership immediately then transfers to the studio. If you have enough power, you can get a piece of that, and if you don't get a piece of that.
And the reason I wanted to dig in is by comparison, when you did your initial minting on Stoner Cats, how much did you raise in that first mint?
We made $8.2 million. We sent back. We sent back 700 and some thousand because we had a gas problem.
Okay.
And so people had a lot of failed mints, and total was about $720,000. We took that and made the people who had failed mints whole because it just was the right thing to do.
That's great. So that's when I talk about the business model, like even though the total isn't as high as if you'd been. I mean, one, it's I assume incredibly rare to actually get to that full season order and get to that big budget. But not only did you raise $8 million directly from fans and kind of people who believed in the project, but you have complete ownership of the IP and where you take it from now on.
I think the biggest part is complete creative control.
Yeah.
We had already made we had already written the entire outline for the season. We had already made the first episode. We already knew where the rest of the episodes were going. We had put a lot into it. So it was a lot of just kind of recouping our own sort of output that we had put out. Also, we had partners we had high level partners on this in terms of our actors as well. So there was a lot of kind of early talk about like, it's such a celebrity cash grab. It is not. This is a labor of love and not a labor of finance at all.
Right. If it was a cash grab, you wouldn't have felt compelled to make people
expensive
whole
animation
to nearly $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Of gas fee reimbursements.
So it's absolutely been a labor of love. And the best part of it is that the show that's coming out, and I'm so proud of it, and I hope people really get to see it. The show, as it's coming out and as it gets put together, and we're just about to put, we have actually made a cut that puts all the episodes together, which is really how they should be watched, is in one big, like kind of movie-like chunk. So as we're putting those together, it is exactly representative of what Ash, Sarah, and Chris wanted it to be. It didn't have, there was incredible feedback and incredible help from a community that loved it, and we got to hear what they liked and we hear what they didn't like, but we didn't have the noise of a studio that we would normally have. So it is something that is, as an artist, really exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Stoner Cats was released on Ethereum. Orchard Farm followed it up with the Gimmicks, which was another Web3 tune, this one on Solana. I'm curious what led to choosing Solana for that second project.
Remember that $700,000 we paid back?
Right.
Yeah. So as we realized, as we started talking to our Stoner Cats community, we found that there were a lot of people where Stoner Cats was their first NFT. This was the thing that made them go, oh, maybe I actually do want to participate in this space. I hadn't seen a use case that was compelling, and this feels like a compelling use case. So we, in the idea of, again, bringing in more people, talking about being able to, own this a great digital asset, that was super exciting. But we wanted to bring people in we knew we wanted to do a lot of on-chain actions with the gimmicks. We wanted to do on-chain voting. We wanted to have our ridiculous on-chain token that we had. We wanted to do a bunch of, which is, by the way, a social token. It's not like a currency token. So we wanted to do some really fun stuff on-chain. Gas was going to be a killer.
Yeah.
Because even, nobody wants to buy like a $20 thing and have it cost another $45 in gas. It doesn't make any sense. So we looked at a lot of chains, and we were looking at what was easy to use for a new person and what had low gas. And that was like the gas part of it was really, really great. And then we had to get, like most people who are in the gimmicks, they'd never had a Solana NFT before.
Right.
So we had a huge...
Go through it again, get Phantom Wallet.
Yep. And all of that process. And in learning what we learned from Stoner Cats and in watching people get botted since then, like, so after Stoner Cats, the bot situation is becoming worse and worse and worse. We purposely made the gimmicks the slowest mint of all time. It was the nightmare 4 days of my life, trying to make sure that 10,000 tokens got into human beings.
Right.
And we did them for free too. So like we really wanted people coming in and participating and playing and having fun with us, experimenting with us. But that meant that we needed people to have it, not just a bunch of wallets that are going to sit there dormant. We wanted human beings to come in and participate. So that meant we were doing full allow list day after day after day, wallet collection day after day after day, to make sure that real people got it in their hands. And I feel like we really were successful. We have a small, mighty, excited community who has now engaged on-chain over 700,000 times between voting and our social token since we launched a few months ago.
That's great. What having gone through those two minting experiences on two different chains, these are exactly the same sorts of experiences Web3 developers are having right now, even if it's games and not animation and pure NFTs. Like, what are some of the key things you took away or key learnings you had in mind as you went on to approach this third Web3 project, which is Armored Kingdom?
Yeah, again, we really see, and this is the way that we talk about this all the time, was we actually don't love the idea, we don't feel that NFT as speculative asset is the use. What we feel like is NFT as a piece of digital ownership is the use. So it's actually consumptive use as an NFT. So with the gimmicks, you can write your character, you get to own this little thing, you get to be part of this community, you get to vote. Like, it's a use piece. Mm-hmm. And so for Armored Kingdom, the NFTs, the game piece NFTs, will be game pieces for our game. So that just seems to make absolute sense. It's just a way to own something digitally. So in order to get normal people out to come and play in this way and see the benefit, because we actually really do see there is a benefit, you have to make it low friction. And so when we started looking at chains for Armored Kingdom, again, gas was a huge thing. It had to be that could not be an issue. It couldn't cost more than just a few cents for people to be able to mint. And then it had to be green. That was important to us. There are real legitimate concerns on the electricity use on the chain.
So and then chain thirdly, that lived out your values as a company.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then the other thing that we really liked, like when we were talking to all of them, is this kind of near wallet experience where you can use your email. You can, like a normal person who's never experienced crypto at all can come in and mint an Armored Kingdom comic, and when we get to minting packs, not feel like they're actually even engaging in cryptocurrency. And hopefully at some point, it's like really not engaging at all in cryptocurrency. Really being able to buy it totally fiat, as opposed to like fiat to crypto just like full fiat, and be able to buy a digital asset with just whatever their local currency is. That's the goal. Yeah, so it doesn't feel like a Web3 product. It feels like a Web2 product with the benefits of Web3 behind it.
Got it. So yeah, it sounds like environmental impact, ease of use, low friction, low gas. These were all the considerations, and that led to you guys choosing the Near protocol as your as Armored Kingdom. Right. So how did these experiences with Stoner Cats and the Gimmicks lead to you guys wanting to say like, well, we've made TV, we've made movies, we've made animation, and now we've made Web3 products. Let's make our lives really easy and make a video game that's a comic, that's a blockchain ecosystem, and a show. Right?
Like, well, because we're insane. Once again, terrible ideas. Let's fucking do it. So that's where that's our sweet spot.
Right.
And I'll pass on to Hugh in a second for like where the idea for Armored Kingdom, the IP came from. But I will say we have talked about games nonstop, 4 years. What could we build? What could we do? How could we are like avid real gamers, and we are also avid storytellers. And we don't think that people like. There are very few IPs that have really hit that. It's funny. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday who had said, Magic the Gathering is a game without really an IP, and like other kinds of games, Pokemon is an IP that has a game, but it's not like the game is only okay. Magic the Gathering is an incredible game, but like they've never been able to really explore that IP in interesting and exciting ways in terms of like narrative content.
I can tell you embarrassingly that I once upon a time read the Magic the Gathering novelizations, and I do not remember much about them other than them being very silly.
Yeah. What the bad thing is like, and then he played a black land.
Yeah.
And then it was so-and-so's turn.
Right. He reached deep into his pouch and felt the aura of the land and summoned a juggernaut. And I, like, even though I was 12, I was like, I love this, and this is stupid. I remember both those thoughts at the same time.
And we've had some friends who have been on multiple iterations of making the TV show, of trying to make a TV show, and it just has not come together. And it just seems like if you can design those things together, if you can design, I mean, obviously comics and animation tie together easily. Like everybody sort of knows that it's really kind of a seamless a way to do that. But Hugh had actually come up with this idea. How many years ago? Hugh, like many years ago, as a toy product. Yeah, go ahead, Hugh. You can explain where it came from.
Well, I described my background, and in addition to all of that, I co-hosted the Activision podcast for a while, and so I was watching Skylanders take off.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I thought I could do it better. I thought that I knew how to engross players of all ages, but particularly young kids who were into Skylanders in a more effective way. That was, given my background, I wanted it to be story driven. I wanted it to be character driven. And like Magic the Gathering, Skylanders were clearly designed around the toys first, and plugged into this. But I wanted to do a story driven, character driven story. How about that? Being able to integrate between video games, action figures, Robot Chicken, all my background, I wanted to combine it all into one thing. And when we brought it out there, the idea would be that characters would use this armor that was designed with magnets that could affix to any size body. And so I got a lot of pushback with the action figures saying that the magnets were too expensive. And I was like, these people aren't having vision. So when Lisa started this company and I started to look at what this technology can do, I brought her this intellectual property. But again, it wasn't designed around the technology. It was, hey, here's characters first, here's a story world first, and let's take the best of what this new technology can do to drive this story even further and to integrate it into all of these wonderful things. So we have the benefit of having a story first, characters, a plot, all of that kind of stuff, and we're able to build all these other worlds out from that rather than retroactively generating a story around technology or a product or what have you. So that's been fun because when we need it, it's there for the taking instead of racking our brains on how to, thread a really small needle and create a story around something that a game, for example, can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll say, Hugh, by the way, we're married. I'm sure everybody can figure that out. Hugh,
really weird.
I can figure that out by how you're not in the same room for this interview.
If you want me to just bang on my floor, you'll hear above his head. I'm literally sitting directly over him. But he's an avid collector, so he understands, which, by the way, is a nightmare, but he understands a collector's mindset. And so when he was developing Armored Kingdom, like into the sort of toy space, all he was thinking about is that collector mindset. And this really feels like, I mean, the same way we've got thousands of Magic cards laying around this house. We've got, thousands of comic books everywhere in this house. Like, all of these things are kind of tying together as one. It feels to us, and then as much as like all we want to do is we love making narrative content and we love telling stories, but we really do feel like a television show is the absolute best advertisement for a game that you could ever have. And Hollywood knows well, games make a lot more money than movies and TV do. So that's really kind of the way that we think about that. And then we brought Brian in. I don't know if Hugh, do you want to talk about how Brian came in and started working through what the game sort of situation would look like? Obviously, you've got this armor build mechanism that these toys were built around. As we've discussed, massive World of Warcraft players, we know that kind of armor build could work so well in terms of gameplay. And so that's where Brian came in.
You have the first-hand experience of going on that intense raid, trying to get that legendary loot, and then the famous person goes to the bathroom and your DPS goes down and you can't get that loot, and that inspired you to make your own game.
I mean, that's really it. There's some that story that Vitaly
like it needs to be playable on the phone so that this never happens again.
No, I can tell you exactly what inspired us. When Burning Crusade came out, we were out at midnight with Mila outside a game store in whatever the cold, waiting for them to release the 1201 copies of the game.
Right
across the street from the Robot Chicken Studios, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
We all got online with our characters that, at this point, this is sort of the first big expansion, right? So we had been playing through the existing world. Q and I were beta players. Like, we had been playing this world for a long time. And so we all had, like, our perfectly built sets, our perfect, tier gear, the best weapons you could have, everything. We get our group, we march through the portal, and we're heading towards the sort of the first camp there is, and there's sort of random spawn mobs, and we kill whatever the first mob was, the green nothing mob, and go to loot it, and it has a green item that has stats that are better than my tier combined shit that I spent months grinding through a castle multiple times, going through Skull Map 20, 30 times to get my hat, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I have full tier 2 from Blackwing Lair. The full...
Yeah,
full,
just...
With Anathema, I was a priest, I had the Anathema staff, and then you wander in the Burning Crusade in green gears beating what you got.
You get a piece of trash.
Exactly.
And God damn it.
Yeah, so that to me, really crystallized the... So what do you do? Like, I had the 2 daggers. I've forgotten the names of the daggers, but they're the most epic daggers before the Crusade came out. So you just put them in the bank. You're never going to use them again because this one is 1 damage more than that one. So these are useless.
Yeah.
Even though you tried really hard to get them. So that really got me focused on this idea of, I hate disposable loot. I hate that you grind and get this stuff, and at the end of the day, one of 2 things happens. Either you get something better and just throw it away, or you get to a point where literally everyone on the server is dressed exactly like you.
Yeah.
I'm a gnome rogue, and I'm standing next to another gnome rogue, and I'm standing next to another gnome rogue, and we've picked different hair colors, but we're wearing the exact same armor, wielding the exact same weapon. Because if we don't have exactly that, then we're not tiered up correctly for the raid, and we're useless. So, I wanted a game where you can advance your equipment, where your sword has a story, that you put time into the sword, you're making the sword more valuable that way. And I also wanted it to be like, I'm focused on becoming like, this versus that. I want, I'm
specialization
in what you're doing. And if you just want to collect, this armor, like let's say, the armor is the NFTs and the artwork is fantastic. So if you just really like the artwork, you could just collect the armor and make a suit of armor with a cool-ass weapon on a figure that just looks fucking awesome, and you don't have to play the game at all.
Yeah.
Or you can, play and, maybe you're the type of person who wants to have, like, a sick-looking, hammer that maybe isn't as great stats out of the box as this other thing, but if you work on it, you can make this hammer more valuable than that other thing that someone just opened. So you're not going to have that green you stumble upon that makes you throw away the thing you spent 6 months on.
Yeah. In when I'm talking to other game designers and economy designers, especially having worked in free to play, like this is normally purchase regret is a problem. Like there's a challenge that we're constantly trying to get you to spend new money, and that almost always requires the invalidation of your previous stuff. And so like Burning Crusade, you want people to buy the expansion, and they need to play the expansion to get the best gear because all their previous gear is now lower tiered than that, and that gets everybody to move onto the next expansion content. And that's part of what I really... my hypothesis around Web3 and why I'm so excited about it as a designer is because I think that the ownership mechanism forces us to not do that, to never invalidate the previous money and time and investment players have spent. And because of the secondary revenue stream on sales, it'll allow us to make the money in a different way that's more respectful to our players and allow us to really focus on their long-term journey and not like, oh, well, I need them to buy this new thing. How do I get them to buy the new thing? I fill it with stuff more powerful than everything they've ever bought.
And for sure, there's going to be equipment that is starter equipment that you get right off the bat that you're going to end up replacing. But that's why we have a whole crafting system where you can use that to generate the materials to make your other equipment better once you're done using it. It doesn't just go sit in a bank someplace or get sold to a vendor and.
It also allows that, like, as you're leveling yourself up, you can just sell it. You can, like, you don't have to just sit it in a bag and have it just be dead there. You can go in and sell your lower level stuff, which, like, the same thing, when you buy a bunch of Magic cards is, a lot of it is stuff that you end up not wanting. But, like, Hugh and I, like, I don't know, whatever, a couple of years ago, he just, like, packaged up whole bulk sales of our Magic cards and we're able to sell them, which, like, to be able to do that in a digital experience is great too, as opposed to like when I go through my Hearthstone decks and I'm like, that's just
wasted money. It fights like the existential dread you might have before you make a purchase that a lot of time prevents me from making a purchase. Like, why am I going to spend $15 in Princess Tale this week? I know I'm going to regret it when I look at my credit card bill, right? So why bother? Let me take a step back for a second because we've been talking a lot about Armored Kingdom without stopping to describe it. So how would you describe Armored Kingdom to somebody who hasn't heard about the project before?
I would say it is a mythic fantasy with a whiff of sci-fi IP multimedia sort of IP company, where we have comic books and animation and a TCG, all of which feed each other. That is empowered through Web3, but not just a speculative Web3 product. So that's sort of how I describe it. Like when I'm talking to somebody who understands what Web3 is. If not, I have to talk about like, and then you get an NFT and you get on it digitally. But we do want that experience to not even feel like that. But that's what we see it as being. Is the animation and the comics feed the game feeds the animation and the comics, and all of this stuff works together sort of seamlessly because it's designed from the ground up that way. So even in terms of gameplay, these characters that you're going to meet in the comics, the way that they play, they're playing, like, all of their sort of playing mechanisms come from stories, so it'll feel intuitive to you. So when you go to play a certain kind of character, intuitively you'll go, oh, I understand that this character would be more magical. I understand that this character would be more brute force. Whatever those kinds of the gameplays that it feel intuitively make sense, and that you can feel immersed in this world.
Got it. And we know on the game side of things, obviously World of Warcraft is a big inspiration. I don't know how far along you are with the design of the trading card game, but like, what are some of the other games that you look to for inspiration for what the gameplay will be for Armored Kingdom?
honestly, Dungeons and Dragons is a huge thing. One of the things we set out to change. There are a lot of Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, top-down tabletop card games where what you are emulating is just two people playing cards on a table.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to do that. Now, we're not locked in on our visuals yet, but we definitely want it to be more immersive. My complaint with Magic the Gathering, and I played a lot of Magic the Gathering, and I think this is the reason that it doesn't work as a TV show or whatever, is when you're playing Magic, you're not fighting, you're telling people to fight.
Right.
You're putting out an ogre, and then the ogre is going to fight against this other mage. You have planeswalkers and stuff like that, but there's a level of disconnect, and we wanted to get rid of that. We want the players to feel more like World of Warcraft or EverQuest or Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like, I'm fighting this person, I'm trying to hit them with my sword, as opposed to I tell my soldier to try and hit him with a sword.
Got it. So something probably more like Slay the Spire.
We talk about Slay the Spire.
We've played a lot of Slay the Spire. Yeah,
that's my drug of choice right now.
Yeah. I had to after about 70 hours, I had to kick a Slay the Spire habit for a while.
70, please.
It's just that game
that's
you
just
can
a
open
weekend
up.
For us.
What's that?
70 hours is just a weekend for us.
I've Ascension 10'd on all 4 characters.
Wow, that's great.
Try Inscription. Have you played Inscription?
Inscription, I just bought it last night for the Steam
you're going to love it.
so that I could
You're
play
going to
it.
love it.
Got it. So Slay the
Steam
Spire.
Deck?
Yeah, Steam Deck's fun.
How'd you get it?
I pre-registered for it the day they opened up pre-registrations, and over a year later, I was privileged enough to be able to spend $400 or whatever it was.
I'm still waiting for my opportunity to spend $400.
Yeah. I know it's stupid because I have an expensive gaming PC, but it's really nice to lay down on the couch and play a AAA game right next to your face. I love it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Stupidity is my language. Come on. I don't buy things that aren't stupid. It's a policy.
Right. How do these how do the various elements of this ecosystem play together? What if anything is the intersection and interaction between game, comic, and show for Armored Kingdom?
So now, for the next few months, we're releasing a comic a week, and the current comics that they've already been written and they're being animated or they're being illustrated right now. So the current comics are really backstory. It's really just understanding. It's immersing in the world. We're getting people used to and excited and immersed in the world. The characters that you meet in the comics, you will start seeing inside the game. The animation, which we have the season 1 kind of. Animation is long. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
So as we're building out season 1 of the animation, we are making sure that those things tie into what we're planning on the game. So the great thing is, because both of those things take a long time, we can develop those things together.
Yeah.
What I'm super excited about is comics don't take quite as long. So
right.
as we're up and running, as the game is up and running, and we want to do some narrative play that more kind of immediately informs the game, we can do that in a comic book format, and kind of help make that even more exciting and more immersive. So that's and this is alpha. We haven't talked about this yet.
Ooh.
Making a little tabletop RPG situation with this as well, so
Very
people
fun.
can experience it in a few ways. But all of those things, they will all absolutely tie together because it's the same group of people on the creative top-down building it.
That's great. Do you all have similar tabletop experiences and love? What are some of the tabletop inspirations and any fun anecdotes about famous people being just like us and playing tabletop RPGs or games as well?
I want to jump in super quick just to say it's not a comic a week.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Oh, my God, did I say I meant comic a month? Sorry, apologies.
Comic Brian was just
That's a lot of comics.
He was just about to evacuate his bowels. Comic a week, I am screwed.
Yeah. I know. I played D&D and Star Wars and GURPS and the wild card game Vampire the Masquerade for a hot minute. I played all those role-playing games. I actually made, when I was living, I never told you guys about this, but when I was living in Phoenix with my D&D group, we also made a board game called Slacker that was super fun, that we never did anything with. We just spent a bunch of time and money and made the board game, and it was awesome, and then I moved to LA. That was, that was it. But yeah, a lot of time gaming, a lot, I DM'd. When Hugh and I were talking for the animated series and for the comic book character design and stuff, we'd pull references, and I'd be, oh yeah, you got to look up this kind of monster, that kind of monster. And he's like, how do you know this? I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's original Monster Manual, or that's Fiend Folio.
Right.
Like, I have all these monsters memorized, all these pictures, from going back forever.
That's great. Did you guess that Vecna was coming to Stranger Things ahead of time?
I'm surprised that they went Demigorgon, Mind Flayer, Vecna, because Demigorgon is way up there. Vecna is about here, and Mind Flayer would be relatively low, and they've kind of screwed up the power leveling of that stuff.
Right.
I will say a lot of writers play D&D. I think it actually, the people who, so much of writing is sitting around going, what if? And then letting your imagination run wild, and then having an editor that comes, your editor comes in and fixes that up. But so much of writing is what if. And these sort of role-playing games are a lot of, just imagination, storytelling. Yeah. And then there is the great sort of math of those games. So they really do have a tree and they have a math, and so does an episode. So does particularly a season of television isn't really a math problem that you're solving as much as it is a story problem that you're solving. So they really tie into each other. Not as many actors, I don't know as many actors who play them. I mean, I know there's a few groups that are putting in popular Dungeons & Dragons teams and groups. That's where Mila draws the line. Right. She does not play Dungeons & Dragons. She does not play... she's like, oh no, I play pretend for my career, so I don't actually do it.
Yeah, it's not relaxing for me. What about Settlers of Catan or any of the...
The first name of... Wait. The very first name of our company was Brick for Sheep. That's what we called it before we called it Orchard Farm. Because we played epic, take multiple Settlers and Seafarers, combine the packs, the decks, or the game together to make massive, full... I mean, we really played... a lot.
Mila once threw me out of her house over a Settlers Catan game.
You're not fucking around.
Yeah, no, we don't fuck around with Settlers Catan. It's like we've got Settlers Catan in our house.
And we just taught the kids, and our 10-year-old, who's the youngest, is a shark.
Mine are 6, 4, and 2, and the 6 and the 4-year-old have played Settlers Junior with their grandparents, and as a huge nerd, that was a really exciting moment to watch a 6-year-old girl teach her grandmother how to trade swords for molasses in that one.
It's amazing. That's so cool.
So I know you recently you announced the project at Consensus, and you did a physical comic giveaway and a minting on the Mirror Protocol, right? How did the minting go? How did that experience compare to your Gimmicks and Stoner Cats experiences?
Well, I mean, it was. We didn't want to limit it, so that was a little bit nicer. I think it went really well. We minted about 30,000. The physical was really fun. Brian was actually at Consensus, not getting COVID, amazingly, but talking people through. We had a scan. You could scan comic, go in, open up your wallet, get your mint. We were pre-filling for gas because we didn't want people to have to even deal with that sort of issue, which meant we did have a couple of people going in and trying to mine 50 cents of gas at a time. So we had to, kind of deal with a little of those things that come up. We knew that those things would come up. We knew the potential of somebody just putting in another email and another email and another email to try to. We knew that was there. We also were 50 cents, really? I'll give you $200 to just stop being annoying.
Right.
So, but, whatever. We have an incredible community. developer, Jess, who's on our team, who has been, so he's incredible. So he was, in Discord helping people as frustrations happen. So, obviously,
I think Jess welcomed me on Discord, and then I'm just a lurker. I lurk in like 80 projects, so that But
Jess is fantastic. Yeah,
I was there day one, and it was nice to get a personalized welcome message.
Great. So, I think we took some learnings. We're actually, we coming at the end of this month, we're going to do issue 1, and we are restructuring how we want that mint to look. So basically, like, our whole goal is that by the time we're minting NFTs, that like anything that anybody pays for, that experience be just as smooth and slick as possible. So it's the great thing of doing free mints is it gives you a chance to try and iterate and make it better, make the experience better.
Got it. How have been your interactions with the community and the community response to the comic and the artwork you've dropped so far and the narrative you've dropped so far?
I think they're super excited about it. There's a whole, in our Discord, if you've been to the Discord, there's a whole fan art section where they're memeing up the stuff, and there was someone in the Discord, I've forgotten who it was, but someone, we have the first comic that came out, and we have descriptions of the races. And one of the races in our game is called the Wari, but the Wari does not appear in the first comic. Mm-hmm. And there are people on there who have already declared themselves Wari.
Right.
Like, well, I identify with the Wari, and I'm like, you haven't even seen them yet. They don't show up for a while.
For all you know, it's a race of worm-worshipping cannibals. Is that who you are? That's who I am inside. No.
Yeah, we actually have a bunch. A lot of what we have coming up and planned is, that we're excited that we'll start rolling out in the next several weeks. Includes things that let people dig in a little bit deeper to the content and let people kind of co-create with us some of the content as well. So like scrolling video of frame by frame of the comic. And, with different kinds of voiceover, letting these guys kind of talk through what they were thinking when they, were working on the comic, letting people come in and voice over the comic if they want, trying to give people fun experiences to be able to participate as we're building the game and as we're building the other experiences that come along with it. And we do want the Discord to grow organically. We want it to be real people coming in. We want it to grow slowly. I really believe deeply that I'd rather have 500 incredibly excited, motivated people who want to participate with us than 50,000 bots sitting in a Discord. We want real people participating with us.
Hugh and Brian, as you work on this story world, being professional storytellers and writers, what are some of the games that you think do narrative or do storytelling best? Like, I know that there are countless examples of horrible stories in games. Like, what are ones that you've experienced that inspire you as writers, or you say, like, I want to meet or exceed the bar set by X or Y?
I think number one of all time is almost indisputably Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the old BioWare RPG.
Yep.
Horizon Zero Dawn recently. And then there's more wide-open games that let you tell your own story, like Skyrim, that are really exciting as well.
Yeah.
You don't always need to be led hand-to-hand through a narrative. Even something as crazy as Grand Theft Auto, you can play it your way.
Yeah.
My goal, we've got 2 years of the story mapped out. Like, we came into this with a story, I don't want to say in stone, but very well mapped out. And we want to let our gamers and our viewers and everybody put themselves into this world. It's a wonderful thing about Star Wars. Yes, it's a very linear, very clear story, the Skywalker saga, but then you've got this huge world you can open up, and kids can either play as Darth Vader or they can play as themselves in the Star Wars world. Yeah. So that was a long, circuitous way of saying that, of course, I love great storytelling in games, comics, and all this stuff. We're sort of like going both avenues of creating a world for people and telling our story. The interesting thing is, I think that we're not even getting into the story that I've created, even through the first 5 issues of the comic. We're just creating the world.
Yeah.
But the specific, like if you see the issue number 0 comic, it's narrated by the lead character of the franchise. But right now, she's still a young girl, and you don't even realize that she has the importance that she has. So, I think we're building a world first, introducing the gamer, the player, whatever have you, into it, letting them carve out their own little niche of this world, and then we're going to start telling a story, and they can integrate themselves into it how they choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also laying out the game on multiple different paths at the same time, right? So we're going to have the PvP, sort of the combat system of the game, which is heavily NFT based. But then we also want a roguelike, a Slay the Spire-ish game that is not heavily NFT based, where you're playing through the various kingdoms and you're fighting people that you've met in the comics and met in the animated series, but you're not playing as one of the you're yourself, but you're fighting against this king or that hero or whatever. And then we also have an adventure series that's coming up, where the idea there is that you're playing as the main characters from the show, doing things that you saw in the show, but also side quests and stuff as a way to ideally earn, crafting materials, or just another avenue of play to earn that isn't, if you are very into PvP, great, play the PvP, play it nonstop, have fun. If you would rather, play through sort of an adventure game, awesome, we got that covered too. It all kind of revolves around the central combat mechanic, but lots of different ways to interface with the universe.
Got it.
And then I think also one last thing, we're all super inspired by games like Inscription or even Slay the Spire, which has a twist, a story-driven twist that sort of throws the gameplay on its ear or whatever. Inscription is all about that. And so we're looking at ways to do that, to let the narrative lead surprising gameplay twists and turns.
Very cool. What have been the reaction from your peers in the entertainment industry? I want to ask because I work in technology. I've done only games, only technology for 20 years. And I have people who listen to this podcast or know me and know that I've shifted to Web3, and they're like, Ethan, you're a crazy person. Like, you have lost your mind. And these are all technology people. So I'm just so curious what the reaction has been when you've told other people in this more traditional non-tech based media, like, oh yeah, we raised $8 million selling these pictures of cats, or we're doing a transmedia multi-game tabletop game comic, like, we're on Discord. I assume a lot of your peers don't even know what Discord is. So like, what has been the reaction to exploring kind of this frontier of entertainment?
Well, there's a couple things. First off, there's a lot of incoming after Stoner Cats, and by the way, there continues to be. People are just waking up to, like, and it's been a year. Articles still come out about Stoner Cats, about it sort of being a paradigm shift. Still get people coming in kind of with incoming on that front. And they all are like, that seems so easy. And you're like, it's so deeply not easy. So cool, but let's talk through what, like, the real challenges are.
Right.
I think it falls into a couple buckets. One is, let me duplicate what you've already done. And
right.
That's not it. The duplicating is never going to be it. It's got to be iterating. Or you're crazy. And I will say that we have a couple, our kind of shout out to our traditional TV agent who's like, stop talking to me about this. I don't ever need to talk to you about this again. And he's like, just not interested in this conversation at all.
Right.
So it really just depends on the person's point of view. I try not to, like, beat anybody over the head of, like, this is the future, and who knows if it's the future or not. But instead, I want to make a product that feels like a consumer product and just show it to them, prove it to them that this is the thing.
My experience, there's a friend that you and I also went to college with who's very traditional media. He's currently editing his own TV series that he wrote and directed. And I tried to explain this project to him, and he doesn't understand it at all. I'm just like, okay, so, it's this IP, and they're going to sell these NFTs, and he's like, but why? But who wants them, and why? And I'm like, well, you use it for this, use it for that, but why? It's just every time I try and explain, he just doesn't. There's just something that isn't connecting.
Yeah. The surprising part to me, actually, my brother works for EA. He, I don't know, does things there.
Do you know where within EA he's situated?
I do, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk because he's really like cagey
okay,
about.
I'll ask you after just to see if I know him or no.
Exactly.
No
He
mutuals.
built all the loot boxes, right?
No, he doesn't. Let's not talk about that. Next subject.
Let's not talk about that.
Next subject.
Bye, Hugh. But he also, I don't know where he's going. But he also, like, when I try to talk to him, as a gamer, to me, it makes utter sense.
Right.
The being able to take owning something digitally for real. The kids understand digital ownership. Like, watch them in Fortnite buy skins and spend those dollars in there all day long, and they can't ever sell it, and they can't trade it, and they can't upgrade it. They can't do or this maybe they can, but they can't do a whole lot of other stuff with it. But in a real world, I can. Like, if I have a real collectible card game, I can actually do something with it. It takes that real world utility and actually improves upon it. The only way we want to do it is if it actually makes it better, and we do think it makes it better. I am surprised when gamers have all this kickback to it. I know they feel like it's a cash grab, and I understand, like, if I've already paid $80 for a game, I don't want to pay another however much money in game to do to buy these NFTs. I understand that thing too. But if you're building it from the ground up, I actually think it's a huge benefit and not. Yeah. I don't get the kickback.
I would tell you as someone who's been kind of on the experimental / bleeding edge of monetization for a long time, I would tell you or give you the advice not to worry too much about what the core of game players are saying, because it's hard when you're one of them and you're like reading IGN or reading Kotaku and they're like, Diablo Immortal is ruining Diablo and we all hate it. Like, you read it, you read the press that's for the core people who this hobby is their identity. Like, it sounds like everyone on this call, being a gamer is part of all of our core identities. And they're like, they've ruined Diablo. It'll never be a success. Blizzard is screwed up royally. I'm never buying another Blizzard product again, and on and on and on. And then a month later it comes out, Diablo Immortal made $50 million in a month, right? Like, there's a vocal minority who are gamers like us, who are very allergic, and rightfully so, to changing business models, because whenever a new business model emerges, there's a lot of abuse of it, and it brings in new people, and it's not necessarily for them. But, like, and so those words can sting because you identify with the person speaking them, but they're not necessarily the actual... They're not speaking for the majority of all gamers, right? Like,
I mean,
they really are. There's a couple of, Diablo Immortal is so interesting right now, right? Yeah. Like, it came out, everybody's playing it, I'm playing it. You don't need to put money into it to enjoy it. That is absolutely true. Yeah. All the video game journalists, one I used to be a very esteemed member, have taken this hard line against monetization in games in general. Yeah. And then you've got this Twitch streamer who spends $25,000 and doesn't get the super rare legendary gem. Yeah. But the truth is, excuse me, I'm just getting over COVID. Excuse me. You don't need that gem to enjoy the game. You don't need the very, very best gear. And in fact, there was a great opinion piece on Kotaku a week ago or whatever, saying how much they were loving Diablo Immortal. Sorry, guys, love the game. And it was a couple of them, if I recall, speaking together. But there's a hardcore collection of gamers that won't be happy until they have the very, very best gear. And those people are compulsive addicts, and there's almost nothing you can do to help them. You know? And by selling them something, you may be saving them thousands of hours of grinding. And in their head, that may be, that may be a terrible thing. They walk down the street and see somebody wearing, the Spectral Tiger, whatever gear. But the truth of the matter is, maybe you're not healthy if you're putting in that much time. Maybe you don't need it that bad, Right. So, as you know, Fortnite has no monetization. It's all, what do you call it?
No power-based monetization.
Right, exactly.
All cosmetic.
Cosmetic, that's the word I'm looking for, sorry. And they get billions, you know? And most gamers are like, yeah, you're wearing the blah, 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 but people love it. So let them love it, That's my theory. Yeah.
I feel like the same issues that you have with like the vocal loud minority. It's also NFT Twitter is the same thing. Right. Just people are loud, they're angry, they don't want their paradigm to be shifted. They think of it this as a certain way. But like Web3, by the way, it's so early. We don't even know what everybody's going to really. I hate that. Like it's so early. Like whatever, but it is. I don't think we've landed on what the real full use case that the world is going to actually adopt at this point. We're all experimenting. But the learning that I had from Stoner Cats is I ran away from that feedback early, and that was a mistake. And so the thing that I learned in watching the Gimmicks is I was in Discord and I was listening and going, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. That is a legitimate concern, and I need to address that legitimate concern. Ooh, that's a problem. That's something I can improve on, and I'm going to improve on that. But like having to really critically think and wipe away what is just noise, also know what my North Star is, but then to be able to actually incorporate good feedback, I think that's really an important lesson, to not be afraid of all of the criticism. And like all of us get thicker skins than we have, because it's not easy to be criticized.
And the other thing with the whole grinding versus pay thing is how much is your time worth?
Right.
I am a grinder because I don't have kids and I have a job where, I'll have a show that's supposed to go, and it'll be a show that's supposed to go for a year of me waiting for the show that's supposed to go, and I can't do anything else. And I'm just waiting. So anything to eat up hours of the day.
I am in the wrong line of business.
Yeah, it's just grind. Well, I totally get it. If you have a real job and you make $100 an hour, and you come home and you put the kids to bed or whatever, and you sit down to play the game, and you're going to play the game for 2 hours. Grinding for 2 hours, you earn 15 cents worth of content, or you just spend $10 and buy stuff, and you can get and start playing, and it's a tenth of 1 hour of your time instead of grinding through the whole thing. I totally get spending that money. It makes perfect sense to me.
Also, ideally, you give both options.
The truth of the matter is, all video games are grinds. What you want to do is find a game that's fun to grind. Going back to Pac-Man, you're playing the same board over and over and over and over. Is it fun or is it not? I'll tell you what, none of these games are more expensive than Pac-Man. That was a quarter for, a 90-second experience, and you were good,
Right.
So it's just a matter of whether it's a fun experience, and you pay for fun experiences, in my opinion.
So, you all have been very generous of your time, so I want to try and get to the 2 wrap-up questions, because I think we could probably talk for another hour easily without missing a beat. But what do we have to look forward to next with Armored Kingdom? You've got the monthly comic drops, you've got the Discord community where you're encouraging the fans to co-create this world with you. What's next? What's on the roadmap?
We are working diligently on the game, and but that's months out. So like, everybody chill, just come and play and have fun with us. We will have a lot more fun, interactive community experiences for people to come in and play with us. So in the immediate future, it's absolutely comic books. It's conversations with all of us. We are like in there talking. It is. We are going to. I love Jess will kill me if I say what's next. But there is.
She's like, don't steal my alpha.
That's exactly right. Jess is working really hard on a community experience that people will want to be early in on. And I'm not going to say anything more than that, what that is, because he'll kill me. And then additionally, we're starting working on the animated series, and we'll start dropping kind of hints on what that's going to look like and where that's going to be.
Awesome. And just a closing question is, this audience is primarily experienced game developers.
No, we're hiring.
Exactly. That was my question. Who are you looking for? Who are you hiring? If someone's like, I want to build this transmedia experience, what are you looking for? What are your needs right now?
We're kind of in deep with a couple of people, but we are still looking for a game producer, like somebody to come in and EP with us. So that will make sure that our to be sort of our team in talking, in kind of combining all of these things together and make sure our expectations are realistic, to make sure our communication is clear, so that we are talking the right language to everybody. So we are really looking for that person to come in and steer ship. We're really looking at one really big high-level hire right now. got a lot of other pieces in place, got a lot of other people that we are bringing in within this next week and two. But right this minute, there's that one key person that we are looking for. We would like somebody who has built games, who has a lot of deep interest in Web3, if not a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience, so we can kind of help on that. But will come in a very big executive managerial position to help us build this.
Got it. Well, if you've been listening for the past hour and you're thinking, that's me, I'm that person, just hit me up on the Deconstructor Fund Slack or on LinkedIn, and I will happily forward you on to the Orchard Farm team and the Armored Kingdom team. All right, y'all, this was so exciting for me. I would greedily take another hour. I hope y'all come back in the future so we can talk even more about it. And I think I'm going to spend the rest of the day watching Robot Chicken, probably.
We should definitely come back when the game drops, for sure.
Well, and even before that, I mean, we're going to start doing some little leaky stuff. We'll talk.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye-bye.